Okay, so we are talking about Jnana Yoga. So instead of going through all these progressive ladders, and finally we know that we have to come back to Bhakti Yoga. So why not we take Bhakti Yoga directly and do sadhana and go back to Godhead? Okay, so that's the easiest process. Take up Bhakti Yoga in the beginning itself. Instead of undergoing this progressive stage of following all the yogas and taking many births. So directly take Bhakti Yoga and try to finish it in this Janma and go back to Krishna. And before we start the class, please let us take the blessings of the beautiful deities of Sri Sri Radha Govinda, Sri Sri Radha Govinda Ji ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Okay, so section 1, transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So 4.1 to 4.10. So the history of Bhagavad Gita. The first sloka. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manur ikshvakave bravid. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu, in turn, instructed it to Ikshvaku. So, here, what do we understand? The knowledge was passed in disciplic succession. From whom? So, from Krishna, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, to whom first it was passed on to Sun God Vivasvan. So we can understand sun is also the sun god is also a person. Generally, they think sun is just nothing but it's like heat or energy. But sun, in the sun planet, there is a sun god. Their people, their houses, their roads, their trees, everything like how we are staying here. So everything is there like that in the sun planet. But like how this material world is made more of earth, there it is made more of fire. Okay, so that is the only difference. So here we can clearly understand that Krishna told the Bhagavad Gita to sun god, means sun god is a person, right? If he is a person only, will he be able to instruct the Bhagavad Gita, right? So he instructed the yoga to sun god Vivasvan. Okay, that, and there's a name for the sun god also, Vivasvan. And Vivasvan instructed it to his son Manu. Okay, Manu is the father of mankind. So from Manu, all the people were generated. So he's the father of mankind. Okay, and he stayed on earthly planet. Like how Vivasvan stayed in the sun planet, Manu stayed on the earthly planet. And Manu, he transferred this knowledge to, or knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to his son, Ikshvaku. So he was also staying in the on the earthly planet. So it happened through parampara. See, from Krishna to his son, to the sun god Vivasvan, and from Vivasvan to his son Manu, and from Manu to his son Ikshvaku. So it happened in disciplic succession. So here they're talking about the importance of parampara. So, transcendental knowledge about Krishna should be received by disciplic succession. This reveals the truth about Krishna's form, his birth, and his activities. So, knowing these truths, one who takes shelter of Krishna becomes purified and attains Krishna. So, we should learn from parampara because it comes from Krishna, because Krishna can tell what exactly he is, right? Like from Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Vyasa, Vyasa to Narada, right? Now, like that, from Narada till our own very Prabhupada. So, like that, it was in parampara, it should go in parampara. So, now we see this parampara, right? Krishna has given this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita initially 2 millions of years ago to sun god Vivasvan, and then Vivasvan gave it to Manu, his son Manu, and Manu to his son Ikshvaku in disciplic succession. Okay, they why that parampara is required is because they don't add or subtract anything. Just as Krishna gave the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, it is just transferred from guru to the disciple and disciple to the disciple, like that. Okay, without any additions or subtractions. So when we understand the Bhagavad Gita just like that, we become purified and we can attain Krishna. Bhagavad Gita was delivered by the Lord to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The sun is the king of all planets. The kings of all planets needed to understand Bhagavad Gita to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. See, the main thing is the king should have that spiritual knowledge so that he can educate the people of his kingdom. If the king itself, he himself does not have spiritual knowledge, how will he be able to inculcate spirituality in his kingdom? So not possible. So that's why Krishna decided to give this knowledge first to the sun god. Okay, so that he can, in turn, with this knowledge, he can transfer that to his citizens and protect them from material bondage, so that he can relieve them from the material bondage and so that they can go back to Godhead. The message that human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge should be conveyed to the citizens through education, culture, and devotion. Sorry. So the purpose of human life is not for sense gratification or enjoyment or comfort. So it is meant to do tapasya. So we have to attain that spiritual knowledge. Okay, we have to understand that spiritual knowledge that we are soul, and what is our connection with the super soul, right? He is the master, we are servants, eternal servants. We are meant to serve him. So Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. We are eternal servants of Lord Krishna. That we have to understand. So propagation of Krishna consciousness was necessary. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivaswan. So the sun god has a name also. In this millennium for us, Vivaswan is the sun god. Okay, the sun planet is the origin of all planets within the solar system. That is true, right? Sun is the basis, and all the remaining planets revolve around the sun. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Yak Chakshuresha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Sura Murti Ashesha Teja Yasyadnaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So this is from Brahma Samhita. So Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so he selected sun god, okay, as his first disciple to instruct the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. History of Gita, as in Mahabharata, Shanti Parva. So in Treta Yuga, this science of relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to whom? To his son, lawgiver, Manu. So Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaju Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet, and forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in the human society from the time of Maharaj Ikshvaku. So from Manu and Ikshvaku both were on the earthly planet. So from that time onwards, we had the Bhagavad Gita on this earthly planet. Okay. So second shloka. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakalan ehe mahata yogo nashtaha parantapa. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Okay, so this Bhagavad Gita, which actually Krishna is giving to Arjuna now, because that disciplic succession was broken, Krishna wanted to give that same knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. He wanted to re-establish that chain again through Arjuna, starting with Arjuna. Again, he wanted to instruct the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, since that chain was broken. At the present moment, we have just passed 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, which lasts 4,32,000 years. So Kali Yuga lifespan is 4,32,000 years, out of which only now 5,000 years have passed. Okay, and before this there was Dwapara Yuga. Dwapara Yuga is twice of Kali Yuga, the lifespan. So that is 8,64,000 years. And Treta Yuga, before Dwapar Yuga, there is Treta Yuga. That is thrice of Kali Yuga. So 4,32,000 into 3 times. So that comes to 12,96,000. Right? So total it comes to, when you add all these, Kali Yuga, Dwapara and Treta, it comes to 25,97,200 years ago. Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaju Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. Okay, so the age of the current Manu is calculated to last for so many years. Okay, 305, 300, 000. Okay, of which now only so many years, like 120, 400, 000 years have gone by. Okay, of that Manu, respective Manu. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to the sun god Vivaswan. Gita was roughly at least 120,4 lakh years ago. Okay, it has been extinct in human society for, it means 2 million years. The Bhagavad Gita was extinct. So everybody forgot about the Bhagavad Gita for 2 million years. And again, it is respoken by the Lord to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. So it was spoken to the sun god because he is also Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Bhagavad Gita, like the Vedas, spoken by the Lord, is Apaurusheya. It is superhuman. Okay? And you can see, right? There are 4 main paramparas, right? Who follow Vaishnava Sampradaya. Okay, so Lord Krishna, like Lord Brahma, Sri Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and Kumara Sampradaya. Okay, so in Brahma Sampradaya, the main leading person is Madhvacharya, and Sri Sampradaya is Ramanujacharya, Rudra Sampradaya is the Vishnu Swami, and Kumara Sampradaya is led by Nimbarka Charya. So we all belong to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Okay, why Gaudiya? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belonged to the Gaudiya Parampara. Okay, so we belong to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Parampara. Okay.
Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji?
Mataji, like here in this table, it is
Huh?
shown, in this table, it is shown the different sampradayas according to the deities. So Mataji, Gaudiya Sampradaya belongs to which deity?
Not deity,
To
Prabhuji. All of them worship Krishna only. The Brahma Sampradaya, they worship Krishna. Sri Sampradaya also, they worship Krishna. Rudra Sampradaya also, they worship Krishna. So all these 4 are, they belong to the Vaishnava Sampradaya. They all worship Krishna or Vishnu. Okay.
yes.
Okay, Prabhuji. And we belong to the Brahma. See, and the representative of our Sampradaya is Madhvacharya. Okay, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why do we say Brahma Madhva Gaudiya? Gaudiya because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belonged to Gauda Desha. He belonged to West Bengal. Gaudiya means, Gauda Desha means West Bengal. So he belonged to that place. So that's why we say we belong to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Okay, so all these 4, Brahma, Sri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, they are all belong to the Vaishnava Sampradaya. Okay, that's why it is said Krishna. They worship 4 paramparas are there. Okay, and their representatives. Okay, so you either go through Lakshmi ji or Shiva or Lord Shiva or Kumara. You will through this parampara you will go to Lord Krishna itself. Either you follow Brahma Sampradaya or Sri. We are following the Brahma Sampradaya now, right? ISKCON follows Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So you can either go through Sri Sampradaya or Rudra Sampradaya or Kumara Sampradaya. So you even then you will reach Krishna or Vishnu. Okay. 4 main sampradayas, chains of disciplic succession descending through the important acharyas, spiritual preceptors, are the main schools of thought in the Vedic tradition. One should belong or be part of one of the sampradayas to be considered authorized in their Vedic teachings or practices. So, Sri Sampradaya, you can see Ramanujacharya. Okay, it comes from goddess Lakshmi Devi. Next is Brahma Sampradaya, led by Madhvacharya. It originated from Lord Brahma. Next is Rudra Sampradaya. It is like led by Vishnu Swami. Okay, Rudra Sampradaya is Lord Shiva, and Kumar Sampradaya. It is led by Nimbarka Acharya, and it is by the Kumaras, 4 Kumaras. Okay. And significance of parampara. The Bhagavad Gita is coming directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is transcendental knowledge and must not be altered in any way. So we should take knowledge as it is coming from Krishna. It should not be added or deleted. In no data, nothing should be added or subtracted. It should be taken as it is. The knowledge of the Gita must be accepted without material interpretation or by mental speculation. So nowadays, the Bhagavad Gita, it has become a fashion for everyone to change according to their own views. Some people, they think they're so intelligent, so authorized that they think like I am IIT, I've done my IIT, I'm an IIT professor. They think they're so talented that they can write the Bhagavad Gita on themselves that they forget Krishna. Bhagavad Gita itself means Krishna and Krishna's words and Krishna's instructions. That won't be there. You can see only his interpretation, his philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita. So we should not read such Bhagavad Gitas written by materialistic persons. Okay, so they just to try to put in their views but not Krishna's views. Then that Bhagavad Gita becomes his Bhagavad Gita. It's not Krishna's Bhagavad Gita, right? It does not become the Bhagavad Gita at all. It becomes his Gita because he puts his philosophy into that and he neglects Krishna totally. So what is the use of reading such kind of Bhagavad Gita? Okay, so we should not read a Bhagavad Gita without one who does material interpretation or by mental speculation. That's why Srila Prabhupada, he, though, I mean, like at that time, he actually didn't want to write the Bhagavad Gita. But when he read all the 700 to 800 copies of Bhagavad Gita, in everything he found false. Like there is no concept of Krishna, and in fact, they were introducing their own philosophy. The philosophy of Bhagavan is not there. Krishna is not there. So that's why Prabhupada, he had to write this Bhagavad Gita as it is, so that whatever Krishna what has come through the parampara. So that's why Prabhupada, many of the photocopies you must have seen. Prabhupada, he puts Acharya's books on his table, 4 to 5 books of different Acharyas, and then he takes the commentaries from all the books. He never writes of his own. He takes the commentaries of the previous Acharyas and then he combines them and he gave it in the Bhagavad Gita. So that is authorized, not writing what comes to our mind. Oh, I feel like this, I feel like that. So what is the use of that Bhagavad Gita? Who is asking your opinion? They're asking Krishna's instructions, right? That is the Bhagavad Gita. So it must be understood by the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita, and this Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada writes, till now millions of copies are sold. Why? Because of its purity. Okay, that and there are no additions, no subtractions. It is as it is. It has come from that disciplic succession, just like how the acharyas, like from how it has come from Brahma, I mean Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vedavyas, and to our very own Srila Prabhupada. That's why if you see ISKCON's Bhagavad Gita as it is the world's most widely sold Bhagavad Gita. Millions of copies are sold every year, more than any Bhagavad Gita, because of its purity. And Prabhupada was able to make many Krishna devotees. Earlier, there were many preachers who were preaching Krishna consciousness, but nobody could make devotees, so many devotees. But Prabhupada could do so, right? So, therefore, Bhagavad Gita must be accepted from someone who has achieved the Lord's mercy. See, like someone like Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, he is like a direct, he is like, what do you say, blessed by Krishna, right? So that's why he could go to the West and preach. Within 10 years, he could build 108 temples. He wrote 70 volumes of books and he traveled the whole world 14 times. Imagine a 70-year-old man. Like generally people nowadays, they start retiring at the age of 40 itself, and at the age of 70 he was happily living in Vrindavan, in Radha Damodar temple. He could have happily done his sadhana devotional service, and he would have been happy staying in Vrindavan. Then why did he have to struggle by going to the West? For people, to educate people like us, he went to the West. And then when he was traveling in between, he suffered two massive heart attacks. And Prabhupada also says that one more heart attack, if he had, he would have definitely died. See, why did it take so much struggle? What was the necessity for Prabhupada? Because he had that compassion for all of us. He knew that all of us are struggling in this material world. We are suffering here. He knows that by practicing Krishna consciousness, we can be happy. We can go back to Krishna eternally and stay happy with our Supreme Father. He knows that everybody in this material world is suffering. So a devotee is compassionate by nature. So he can't see other people suffering. So that's why at the age of 70, he left his enjoyment. His Vrindavan was everything to Prabhupada. He left Vrindavan and then he started to the West. And there he started the preaching, and then there at that time the hippie movement was going on. They were so much into drugs and all those things, and the government there was trying so much to stop all these people from having drugs, but nothing could stop them. But just by Prabhupada introducing Krishna consciousness movement, the Americans, they're called mlechas. Okay, so by mlechas, because they, what do you say? They did not, I mean, like when we take initiation, we follow the four regulative principles, right? They were crossing all those regulative principles, like what? They had illicit sex. In America, that is prominent. They eat meat, okay, they drink and they gamble. So all these four are there. So Prabhupada changed these people just by introducing them to Krishna consciousness, which the government could not do, stop drugs and all those things. Prabhupada, just by introducing them to Krishna consciousness, made them sadhus. They gave up meat eating, they stopped drinking wine, no illicit sex. And if they had, and if people were living, like if a girl and a boy were staying in one room, he got them married. Prabhupada. He became a, what do you say, a marriage counselor also. Because the sannyasi never does marriage to anybody. But he had to propagate Krishna consciousness throughout the world, he had to do that also. So he got his disciples married, and he took so much risk, Prabhupada, just to preach Krishna consciousness to all of us. Okay? So the knowledge of the Gita must be accepted without material interpretation or by mental speculation. It must be understood by the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita must be accepted from someone who has achieved the Lord's mercy. So that is the proper qualification, and not by someone who has written, a material person who has written, who has just come up from nowhere. He thinks that he's intelligent. I am an IIT or whatever knowledge. Some people, they do PhD in Bhagavad Gita and they prepare their own thesis. So we should not read such kind of books written by materialistic people, right? We should read Bhagavad Gita, which has come from parampara, disciplic succession. Okay, so that is the proper qualification. Having learned it properly from someone having the proper qualification, who learned it properly, etc. That this is parampara. So it should come from parampara, from guru to disciple, disciple to his disciple, disciple, like that, so on. See, this is the life of Brahma. Okay. So you see, right? One Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga. So all these four together make one Divya Yuga. So one Divya Yuga is 4.32 million years. And like that, what is one Manvantara is 71 Divya Yugas. So 71 into 4.32 is 306.72 million years. That is one Manvantara. Okay. And then what is one kalpa? One kalpa is 14 manvantaras. So 14 into 306.72 plus 15 sandhyas. Okay, sandhya is that duration where between each yuga, if you see, there is a lapse. There is that small gap. If you can see right in the down, sandhyas, they say between every yuga, there will be a small gap between creation and destruction. A small phase will be there. So that phase is called sandhya. So plus 15 sandhyas, it is equal to one kalpa. That is a day of Brahma. Day of Brahma means 12 hours. Right? So that is equal to 4.32 billion years. Okay. And then 36. So life of Brahma is not one kalpa. It is 36,000 kalpas. Okay, so 36,000 into 1 kalpa is 4.32 billion years. Okay, that plus if you want the whole of 100 years of Brahma, you have to do into 2. This is only a day. So into night means into 2. If you do, the whole life of Brahma is like 311 trillion years in our human calculation. So 100 years of Brahma is equal to 311 trillion years in our earthly years. Okay, that is the duration. Our 100 years is equal to Brahma's 311.04 trillion years. Okay, that is the durations. So now Brahma has just passed 50 years. So his age, according to our earthly years, is 155.522 trillion years. Okay, and life of Manu is like 120.533 million years. So Gita was spoken 120 million years ago to Vivaswan. Okay, so Vivaswan is the sun god. So Gita was spoken 120 million years ago. So first Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Vivaswan 120 million years ago. And when did Gita come on to the earth? 2 million years ago. Okay, to the sun planet it came 120 million years ago, and to the earthly planet it came 2 million years ago. Okay, and you can see, right, 1 day of Brahma is so many years in our earthly years. 1 hour of Brahma is so much. So 1 minute of Brahma in our earthly calculation is so much, and 1 second of Brahma is 1 lakh years, our years. So you can imagine the duration of Brahma's life. Okay, so big it is compared to ours. Sa evayam maya tetya yoga proktah puratanaha bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and you can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling this to Arjuna because why? What is the qualification? Because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and that's why you will be able to understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So that is the qualification. Anybody who wants to understand the Bhagavad Gita, see, not your intelligence, not your anything that your mental speculation that will decide your Bhagavad Gita. It's only the qualification is you should be a devotee and a friend of Krishna. So then only you can understand the Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna's qualification is Arjuna is a devotee and a friend, accepts Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. So only devotees can understand this knowledge, not who do not accept Krishna as he is. Many of them they accept Krishna as God, as one of the gods, but they don't accept him as the supreme personality of Godhead. Like here, like Shiva is one of the god, I mean, they say Ganesha is God, Durga is God, Lakshmi Devi is God. It's like that. They consider Krishna also as one of the demigods, but nobody accepts. Very few accept that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and the remaining demigods are his servants. Nobody accepts like that. Okay, only so devotees only can understand this knowledge, not who do not accept Krishna as he is. So now, what is Arjuna's doubt? See, how can Krishna, he is born to Devaki. How could he instruct Vivaswan, who is millions of years old? Now, in this fourth shloka, we'll see what is the doubt that Arjuna gets. Krishna, you have born, you are my contemporary, you are of the same age, of my age. How is it that how can I believe that you have told the Bhagavad Gita so many millions of years ago to Sun God, but you are just born now. Sun God is millions of years old. How is it that you told the Bhagavad Gita then? Okay, so he had that doubt. You are my age now. You were born to Mother Devaki. You are my age. Right? We both are of the same age. How is it that you were able to instruct Sun God, who is millions of years old? Yeah, so that's what he's asking in the shloka. Aparam bhavato janma, param janma vivasvataha, katam etad vijaniyam, tvam adau proktavan iti. So translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? So why does Arjuna ask this doubt? Okay, Arjuna, he knows everything about Krishna, right? But for people like us who may doubt Krishna's, what do you say, who say that Krishna is ordinary, for them to prove Krishna's greatness, he wanted to prove Krishna's greatness. That's why he's asking this question, so that Krishna can prove his greatness now. Okay, to defy, why does Arjuna ask this doubt? To defy demonic and atheistic people who say that Krishna is ordinary. Wants Krishna to speak authoritatively. Okay, he wants Krishna to prove himself that he's not an ordinary person. That's why he asks this question. Okay, Arjuna is inquiring these for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arjuna knew perfectly that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything and the last word in transcendence. Krishna appeared as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva on this earth as Lord's benediction. Okay, the atheists who consider Krishna an ordinary man come to know that Krishna is superhuman, that he is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental and that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. So Sri Krishna Avatara took place during the Sandhi Kala in Dwapara Yuga in the 20th Mahayuga of Vaivaswata Manvantara. So Lord Krishna, considered as the Paripurna Avatara of Lord Sriman Narayana, took birth in the Chandravamsam in Yadu dynasty in the clan of Vrushni. He was born to the noble couple Vasudeva and his consort Devaki Devi as their eighth child. Devaki and Vasudeva, in their previous birth, had performed severe penances for several thousands of years to have Lord Sri Mahavishnu as their child for 3 lives. As a result, Lord Sriman Narayana took birth as Prishnigarbha in Krita or Satya Yuga to the divine couple Prishni and Sutapa. So, Vishnu, he took birth as Prishnigarbha to the couple Prishni and Sutapa, and as Vamana to sage Kashyapa and Aditi, right, as Vamana Avatara in Treta Yuga. And thirdly, as Lord Sri Krishna to Devaki and Vasudeva in Sri Krishna Avatara Dwapara Yuga. So, thus fulfilling the boon given to them. So, before taking birth, he gave darshan to his parents in his original form of Lord Sri Narayana and reminding of their lineage and the boon given to them. Okay, so now we'll see in 5 to 10, Krishna, he reveals his position. Now he shows his greatness that he wants, what Arjuna wanted, that is what Arjuna wanted, it, right? So from 5 to 10, Krishna reveals his greatness. Okay, in which
Mataji,
yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes.
Mataji, what was the Prishni avatar of Lord Krishna?
Here, he was born as Prishnigarbha, Prabhuji. Sorry?
Mataji, Lord Krishna was born to Queen Devaki and Lord Vasudeva in these three avatars, Prishni, Lord Vaman, and as
Yeah,
Lord Shri
he
Krishna himself.
was born as Prishnigarbha to Prishni and Sutapa, Prabhuji. That is one avatar. Okay? And
Which avatar was that?
Prishnigarbha, Prabhuji. Like how Vamana is one avatar, Prishnigarbha is one avatar. Okay? Yeah, he is like Prishnigarbha, Prabhuji. He is an avatar of Lord Vishnu, Prabhuji. Prishnigarbha is Lord Vishnu himself, and he appeared to, it is said that he appeared to young devotee Dhruva and he granted him the boon of Dhruvaloka. Okay, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. So Prishnigarbha is like, he's an avatar of Lord Vishnu. So he is that Prishnigarbha himself, he grants Dhruvaloka to Dhruva. Okay, so it's an avatar of Lord Vishnu. Like how Vamana is an avatar again, right, of Vishnu. Like that, even Prishnigarbha is an avatar of Vishnu, and in that form, he gave blessings to Lord Dhruva. Okay, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so now Krishna, he will try to prove his greatness. That is what Arjuna wanted, right? Arjuna wanted to prove that many people think that Krishna is ordinary. So he wanted to prove Krishna's greatness. Now let's see from 4.5 how Krishna, he reveals his greatness. So Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tani aham veda sarvani Natvam Veta Parantapa. The personality of Godhead said, many, many births you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot remember, O subduer of me. So Krishna is telling, see, Arjuna, I and you, we have come together. So Krishna likes Arjuna very much. So in whichever Leela they both come together. We can see that Nara Narayana, Nara is Arjuna, Narayana is Krishna. So they come together. Okay, but Krishna, being the supreme personality of Godhead, he can and his body, everything is transcendental. So he can remember all the past and the past births and everything he can remember. But Arjuna, he being a normal person, he couldn't remember. So he is not able to remember. That's what Krishna is telling. See, both of us have taken many janmas together, but I can remember all of them, but you can't remember. Arjuna is just like us, right? See, even after we die, see, we don't know what our previous janma is, right? Correct? We don't know. So, like that, Arjuna is of the same category. So, Krishna is like the Paramatma. He knows everything. All the janmas that he has taken, he knows everything. And what Arjuna has also taken, he knows. Right? But Arjuna, he doesn't know all of them. He does not remember any. Okay? So, 4.6. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutatmanam ishwaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya Sambhavami Atmamayaya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Although I'm unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Okay, so Krishna is telling, I'm unborn, but still and my transcendental body never deteriorates because his body is divyam, right? It is eternal, so it never undergoes deterioration like our material body. Our material body, it undergoes 6 changes, right? We give birth and we grow, and then we give rise to what is this, byproducts, and then we become old, we dwindle, we become old, and then we die. So we undergo all these different phases, right? But Krishna's body is transcendental, divyam. It never deteriorates. And although I'm the Lord of all living entities, right? Krishna is the Lord of all living entities. I still appear. Though I'm unborn, Krishna is saying, I appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So whenever Krishna comes to do Leela in this material world, he comes in his, though he appears like an ordinary human being, he always comes in his transcendental form. Okay, that we have to understand. Though he may look like an ordinary human being, it's not that, it does not mean that his body is made of material elements. His body, however, wherever he comes, is always transcendental. So now we can see the difference between Krishna and us. See, Krishna's form is spiritual, our form is temporary. Okay, we are controlled by Maya. Krishna is the controller of Maya. Okay, so we have, see this, see the covering of the soul. Actually, this is the gross body. If all of you can see, this is the gross body, the outside body, where we can see we can see our, see and feel, touch our skin. It is made up of earth, water, air, fire, and ether, the gross body. Okay, the subtle body is inside the gross body. Okay, it is made up of mind, false ego, and intelligence. And next one is the soul. It stays in the heart, right? So the soul is spiritual. It is not material. The subtle body is material, the gross body is material, and the soul is spiritual. It is Sat Chit Ananda. Okay, so we have all these three, the gross body, the subtle body, and the soul. And when we die, the gross body is burnt. In the material world, the gross body is burned, and when we burn, the earth and the water, air, fire, ether, they get mixed up when you burn the body. And the subtle body and the soul, they get transferred into the, along with the super soul, they get transferred into the next body. Okay.
Mataji,
Yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji,
Yeah.
the intelligence and memory that will come under subtle body or the gross body.
No, subtle body, Prabhuji, because we can't see the intelligence, right? The mind, false ego, and intelligence we can't see. So that comes under the subtle body. Okay, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. See, the summarized the differences, okay, between Krishna and the living and us. So Krishna is eternal and remembers past, present, and future. So that's why Krishna is called as Achyuta. He never forgets. He's infallible. Okay, but conditioned living entity, he is eternal, but he forgets. Okay, the conditioned living entity, he's a soul. Actually, he's a spirit soul. But when he comes to this material world, gets this material body because of which he forgets. Okay, so he's eternal, but he forgets because of taking this material body. Two, remembers all. Krishna, he remembers all births because body does not change or deteriorate because Krishna's body is transcendental, right? So that's why he remembers all his births because he does not change the body. It's the same body he comes, right? But for us, we forget because we change bodies. When we die, that body is burnt and we take a new body. That's why we forget everything about our previous Janma. So we forget because the body changes and it deteriorates. And third is Krishna, he appears by his own will. So nobody can say, Krishna, you come at this time. He has no karma, right? You come at this time to this parents only, like this only. We can't instruct. So he appears by his own will. So we are forced to appear by karma. And fourth, body is transcendental and our body is material. So no difference between the body and self. So Krishna, there's a body and self are same. Both are transcendental. So there's no difference between the body and the soul. But for us, the soul acquires an external body that is material. That's why we say it's material body. When the same soul goes to the spiritual world, it gets a spiritual body, right? Then it becomes transcendental. Lord's Prakriti, nature, and Swarupa, his form. The Lord appears in his own eternal body, two-handed with flute. Common living entity changes from one body to another. Okay, so Krishna is always transcendental. When he comes to this material world, he appears in his own eternal body. How? Like Krishna, two-handed with flute. But common living entity, he changes from one body to another. He accepts a material body. Although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youthhood. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us. Although he's the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future, neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Okay. So Krishna, he has his transcendental body, though at the time of Kurukshetra, he was like around 125 years. Still, he looked like a young boy of 20 or 25 years old. Okay. So that is his body. So even in spite of being in a material world, he's the same supreme personality of Godhead, eternal. He's Sachidananda here also when he comes in the material world. Okay. So 4.7 to 8 talks about his activities. Okay, it explains when and why Krishna appears, reasons for his descent. So why does Krishna have to come from Goloka Vrindavan to this material world. So why does he have to come? Okay, so when does Krishna appear? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So Krishna is saying, why does he come to this material world? Though he is unborn, he takes birth here. Why? He comes basically when there is a predominant rise of irreligion, when there is more of adharma. Krishna is saying what do you say? Whenever there is a decline in dharma or adharma is predominant, that time he comes. Okay. So why the Lord appears and disappears in this world? Although the Lord appears on schedule, namely at the end of Dwapara Yuga, the 28th millennium of the 7th Manu, in one day of Brahma, he has no obligation to adhere to such rules and regulations because he is completely free to act in many ways at his will. He therefore appears by his own will whenever there is a predominance of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion. So, generally, Krishna, he comes in the Dwapara Yuga at this particular time. But it's not necessary, they are saying, that Krishna has to come in Dwapara Yuga at this particular time. It's up to him. But generally, he comes in the Dwapara Yuga as Krishna on the 20th millennium of the 7th Manu, okay, in one day of Brahma. So, Brahma, in his one day, means he can see Krishna every day. So, we can understand how fortunate Brahma is. So, his every day he can see Krishna. So, in a day of Brahma, Krishna comes into the material world. So every day Brahma gets a chance to see Krishna. Okay. So principles of religion are laid down in the Vedas, and any discrepancy in the matter of properly executing the rules of the Vedas makes one irreligious. So if anybody, they don't follow the Vedas, it means they're being adharmic. Okay, so whatever duties we have to do, we earlier discussed, right? Prescribed duties are mentioned in the Vedas, and each ashrama, like the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, they have to do their duties according to the what are mentioned in the Vedas. So if they don't follow, it means they are following adharma, right? Therefore, the principles of dharma or religion are the direct orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The highest principle of religion is to surrender unto him only. Okay, sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Krishna says, right, in 18.66. So the highest principle of religion is to surrender unto him only and nothing more. And whenever such principles are disturbed by the demonic, the Lord appears. So whenever this principle of dharma is disturbed, that is the time by the demons, right? The dharma is disturbed. So that time Krishna he appears to establish dharma again. Lord Buddha, an incarnation of Krishna, appeared when materialism was rampant and materialists were using the pretext of the authority of the Vedas. Although there are certain restrictive rules and regulations regarding animal sacrifice for particular purpose in the Vedas, so actually the Buddha avatar had a specific purpose. So Lord Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna. Okay, he had a very specific purpose. The main thing is by performing the Vedas, they were killing animal sacrifices. But some people, they were taking it as a chance or pretext for the sense gratification to kill and eat animal meat. Okay, so Buddha he came to stop this killing of animals, innocent animals. Okay, so that's why he had to reject the Vedas, because in the Vedas it is said that sacrifice, killing is allowed. But they, people who are doing it, religiously, They were doing it for a good purpose, but some other people, they were taking advantage of it for sense gratification. The Brahmanas, they were doing it so that the animal that is sacrificed would get a human birth. So that is why they were sacrificing that particular animal, killing that animal, but not for their sense gratification. They didn't want to eat it, kill and eat it. Okay, but some people, they were taking advantage of the Vedas for sense gratification. They, on the pretext of yagna, they would do and they would eat it for sense gratification. So Lord Buddha wanted to stop that. That's why he said, I don't believe in all these Vedas. Just stop animal killing. That's all. Stop reading the Vedas, following the Vedas, everything. So that's why Lord Buddha appeared in order to stop this nonsense and to establish the Vedic principles of non-violence. So each and every avatar that you see, Lord takes has a particular purpose. Like Buddha, Lord Buddha, he came to stop the killing of animals. He wanted to establish the principles of non-violence. Okay, that's why he said there's no concept of God for him. So his main intention was to stop animal killing. He wanted to establish principles of non-violence. So that is the purpose of Lord Buddha avatar. Okay, like that, each avatar had one specific purpose. Okay. So no one should be accepted as an avatar unless he is referred to by scriptures. So this is very important. See, an avatara, we have to see nowadays in Kali Yuga, many people say now, actually Kalki, per the Bhagavatam, it is said that Kalki he'll come, Krishna as Kalki, he will come at the end. When is Kali Yuga ending? 4,32,000 years. And we just have crossed 5,000 years. And they are saying Kalki, I am Kalki, I am Kalki. How unfortunate. He's supposed to come after 4 lakh years, 4,32,000 years when the Kali Yuga is about to end. And people are saying, I am Kalki, I am Kalki. Right? How unfortunate. So that's what they're saying. If we should be very careful when people say that I am an incarnation of the Lord, I am incarnation. So we have to see all these things. When the avatars are going to come, where, what time. So we have to refer the Shastras. Blindly, we should not accept the avatars. Okay, so no one should be accepted as an avatara unless he is referred to by the scriptures. Lord can manifest himself because now in Kali Yuga, every other street you will see a person saying that I am God, I am God, I am God. And that God will have nice white beard, he'll be old. Can God be old? Can God have white hair? Or we don't know what kind of gods they are then. Okay, so we have to be very careful nowadays. Okay, that's why we should refer the scriptures, like when they say it is an avatar, so and so did, can he be an avatar? So we have to refer the Shastras and scriptures and then understand whether he's an avatar of Lord or not. So Lord can manifest himself anywhere and everywhere and whenever he desires to appear. In each and every incarnation, he speaks as much about religion as can be understood by the particular people under the particular circumstances. But the mission is the same, to lead people to God consciousness and obedience to the principles of religion. So, whichever avatar Krishna or his incarnation takes place, is to get people close to God consciousness and follow Dharma. So, that is the main intention of any avatar. So sometimes he descends personally, and sometimes he sends his bona fide representatives in the form of his son, servant, or himself in some disguised form. Okay, so why does see how beautiful Krishna is there in this photo, in this PPT? You can see, right? I personally feel there is no other deity who's beautiful than Krishna. Right, even if Krishna was a demigod, maybe I would not take my eyes off Krishna. So he's so beautiful, Krishna. But luckily, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, right? He's so beautiful, right? So we can see how beautifully they painted Krishna here, right? So why does Krishna appear? 4.8. परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So, what is Krishna saying? Why does he come to the material planet? To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants. So, we can see he is trying to kill Kamsa here in the picture there. And he comes to re-establish. So, why does Krishna mainly come? See, if he really wanted to kill Kamsa, just he would have, just the thought that, oh, give Kamsa heart attack, he would have died. There's no need for Krishna to personally come and sit on him and kill him personally or do all this risk. If he really wanted to kill Kamsa, just give him a heart attack. That's enough. He would have died. But the main intention why Krishna comes is, right, first thing is he comes to please his devotees. See, he wants to please his devotees. That's why he performs all these activities of killing the demons. With the Gopas, he does many activities. With the Gopis, he does many activities. With the cows, he does many leelas. So, like that, he does many leelas to please his devotees. So, the cows are his devotees, the Gopis are his devotees. With Yashoda Maya, Nanda Baba, okay, and the Gopas, he wants to give pleasure to them. Okay, he comes to give pleasure to the devotees. So anyway, what Krishna thinks, okay, anyway I've come for the devotees, right? So let me do this also. That's why he comes to kill the demons like Kamsa, because anyway he's come to give pleasure to them. So let me do this also. So he does this also. But the main thing why he comes is he comes to give pleasure to the devotees, right? To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants. Lord appears in different incarnations to deliver the devotee and vanquish the demon miscreants. The demon harasses the devotee. Even though the latter may happen to be his kin. Although Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu, he was nonetheless prosecuted by his father. Although Devaki, the mother of Krishna, was the sister of Kamsa, she and her husband Vasudeva were persecuted only because Krishna was born of them. So Lord Krishna appeared primarily to deliver Devaki. Rather, see, he appeared primarily to deliver Devaki rather than kill Kamsa. But both were performed simultaneously. So why did he come to Mathura? Basically, he wanted to relieve, because they were under the custody of Kamsa. They were undergoing so much pain under his custody, right? In the jail, both Devaki and Vasudev. So he wanted to relieve his parents, from the custody of Kamsa. Okay, so main is he came to give protection to Devaki. At the same time, he thought, okay, anyway, I've come to protect them, so let me kill Kamsa also. So he kills Kamsa. So both were done simultaneously. So when he killed Kamsa, automatically they were also delivered, right, from the clutches of Kamsa. So such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world. See, all these incarnations are there in the spiritual world. See, they have their separate places in the spiritual world. Like Rama has Ayodhya. Like Narasimhadev has his particular place in the spiritual world, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has his eternal abode in Vaikunta, in Goloka Vrindavan. So all they have all their specific locations, but when have to come to this material world, they come from the spiritual planet. They take an avatar and they come here, but they have their spiritual places in Goloka Vrindavan, right? They have their eternal places there. But when they have to take an avatar, when they have to come to the material world, they come in the form of avatars. As like we see, right, Purusha avatars, Guna avatars, Leela avatars, Shaktya Vesh avatars, Manvantara avatars, Yuga avatars. Okay. But Krishna is the primeval Lord. He is the fountainhead of all the avatars. The Lord Sri Krishna descends for the specific purpose of mitigating the anxieties of the pure devotees who are very anxious to see him and his original Vrindavan pastimes. Therefore, the prime purpose of Krishna Avatara, see, the main reason is Krishna Avatara is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. He wants to give pleasure to his devotees, unalloyed devotees. The incarnation in the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtana movement and spread Krishna consciousness. This avatar of the Lord does not kill miscreants but delivers them by his causeless mercy. So, here, this is the only avatar of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he does not use any instrument to kill anybody. What does the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu use? What is that weapon that he uses? Sankirtana Yagna. So he delivers them by his causeless mercy by asking them to chant the holy names of Krishna by spreading the Sankirtana Yagna. So, what is the benefit of knowing Krishna's appearance and activities? So, one who understands that Krishna's appearance, body is transcendental, what happens? See, 4.9 Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म naiti mameti so Arjuna. So, a translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. So, one who knows that Krishna, the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, who knows that Krishna's is transcendental, and they who doesn't consider Krishna as a normal ordinary person, and whatever activities that Krishna does are transcendental, they, such people, upon leaving their body, they will not take birth again. Krishna is saying they will come back to my eternal abode. See, here in this PPT, you can see that Krishna, as a small boy, he appears like an ordinary boy. But he, during the Damodar Leela, all of you know, right? In the Kartik Mas, all these Leelas are discussed. Those two people are Nala Kuvera and Manigriva. They are the sons of Kuvera. Right? He delivered them. There were two trees like Yamala and Arjuna trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. So Krishna, with that Uluka, he drags in between the trees and he breaks the trees. And when the trees fall down, these two divine people come out, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, and he delivers them. So it shows that he is the supreme personality of Godhead, though he's appearing like a small, ordinary child. Okay. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadi, Ananta Rupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, there's still one, and the supreme only the same supreme personality of Godhead. So, although there are many forms of Krishna like Rama, Narsimha, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but all of them belong to the same supreme personality of Godhead. 4.10 वीतरागभयक्रोधा मन्मया माम् उपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावमागता. Being free from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. So, main thing is we have to get free from these three. What are they? Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. So, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Raga means attachment, Bhaya means fear, Krodha means anger. And then what should we do? Fully absorbed in Krishna, taking complete shelter of Krishna. So, what happens? We get purified by knowledge of me. And then we can attain the transcendental love for Krishna. material people are attached to the bodily conception of life, cannot understand or even imagine that there is a transcendental, imperishable body full of knowledge and eternal bliss as that of the Lord. So the materialistic people, they don't understand the concept of soul, or there is a eternal spiritual world. If we tell them, because they're so much into material enjoyment that they think that they're this body, they don't want to understand the concept of soul or spirituality and all that. Okay, right? So, in the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. For them, the Supreme Lord is non-existent and impersonal. See, these they are talking about gnanis. Okay, so actually, these people, these materialistic people, they fear about the material world. So let me explain this concept, why it frightens them. See, these people, they understand that because we have this body, that is why we are undergoing pain in this material world. So what do these people do? They don't want to maintain. See, if someone like us, like a devotee, goes to such a person and tells them that even after you die, even after you get liberated, a devotee, he goes and tells him that you will go back to Godhead, and there you'll be serving Krishna there. So they get scared. Okay, so they get scared. Oh, again we have to serve. It means that we'll have karma. If we start serving, then karma means good or bad karma again. Then we have to again take birth. So they get scared. So that's why, what do these people do? They generally, when they are in the material world also, they try to detach themselves from all these doing all these responsibilities, duties. Why? Because they think that if they do these responsibilities and duties in the material world, they will get either good or bad karma. So because of which they have to come again, take birth, and come back to suffer or enjoy the good or bad karma, which they don't want to, right? So that's why they come to this concept, that's why they go away from, they renounce this material world. First of all, they leave their duties and responsibilities because they want to avoid this karma itself. Okay, so they go into the forest or somewhere, and they start meditating. So they start meditating on the impersonal Brahman.
Yes.
Why do they meditate on impersonal Brahman? Because it frightens them. Like the devotees, they say, right? If they after liberation, they will go to Krishna, where they will maintain their individuality. And again, when they try to serve Krishna there, they again they feel they are ignorant. What is they feel the same way like in the material world. There also, when they go there after liberation and they serve Krishna, they think there also there'll be good and bad karma. Again, we have to go again, suffer or enjoy. So they get scared of that thought, because they think that when they were in the material world, they understand that there is so much pain. So that's why they renounce everything and they come to the forest, because they want to escape that good or bad karma, right? But again, they're concerned after liberation, again, we'll be individual, we'll serve the Lord, again, good and bad karma will be there. But they don't understand that when once you go to the spiritual planet, there'll be no karma at all. They don't understand that. They are under the under ignorance. They think that there also there'll be good and bad karma, so they get scared. So that's why they don't agree to the concept of personal form of the Lord. So they want to take the impersonal form of the Lord, the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, so that there'll be no activity, right? If there is light or energy, what kind of activity will be there between the person? Nothing, right? What can you do with the light? You can't do any service to light or energy, right? So that's why they think I will also lose my individuality by merging into the light. So nothing, there's nothing, no service, nothing, right? So I will just merge into that impersonal Brahman, and I'll become one with God. So that is their concept. Okay, so knowing of the existence of the spiritual life that is individual and personal scares them of becoming, see, persons again. They don't want to become personals again in the spiritual life. Hence, prefer a kind of merging into that's why they want to merge into that light and become one with God, and they want to lose their individuality. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean which merge into the ocean. So, like they want to become one with the ocean. See, like when the waves come, you can see many bubbles, right? The bubbles merge into the ocean and become one with the ocean. So that is how these impersonalists or Mayavadis, they want to become one with the impersonal Brahman. Okay, this is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Many unable to understand spiritual existence, embarrassed by various theories and contradictions of philosophical speculation, become disgusted or angry. Okay, some people, so we saw the example of fear. Fear is, we've seen the material people, how they fear and they try to merge into the impersonal Brahman. Okay, and we are seeing last one is anger. Some many people, because we see so many spiritual people, so many spiritual processes. So they see all these many varieties of spiritual processes and they get angry. Right, so many. This path says this, you follow this path. This spiritual practice says this. They see so many, and they get vexed up. They get angry, or what do you say? They get frustrated. So many theories are there. So many contradictions are there. Each one is giving their own philosophy. So they become disgusted or angry, and they conclude that everything is void now. See, void means what? You don't exist. God doesn't exist. There's no activity, nothing. Void, it is just empty. Okay, there's nothing. So these people, such people are in a diseased condition of life. So to get free from these three stages of material concept of life, that is attachment, fear, and anger, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of the devotional life is called bhava. So, there are 9 stages of devotional life, and the second last is bhava, and the last is prema. Okay, or transcendental love of Godhead that culminates into prema, real love of God. Generally, they compare the living entities to bubbles of the ocean which merge into the ocean. This is a kind of fearful stage of life devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Okay, so generally, the devotees, they are scared of this. We've heard about 5 kinds of liberation, right? Out of that, the one is Sayuja Mukti, becoming one with God. So devotees are scared of this because they never want to become one with God. They want to maintain their individuality, and after liberation, they want to continue their service to Krishna. So they never opt, even there is a chance that they may opt for the other 4, but they never opt for this one. Sayuja Mukti, becoming one with God, they never accept. They're not interested because they don't want to lose their individuality. They always want to be separate as an individual, and they want to serve Krishna. Okay, many unable to understand spiritual existence, we said this, right? They become angry. Such people are in diseased condition of life. To get free from these 3 stages of material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of devotional life is called bhava. We saw, right? It culminates into prema. The same thing is being repeated. Okay, so what is raga? So raga means strong attachment to material life. It leads to negligence of spiritual life. See, when your attachment to your family members, to property, wealth, money, when you're attached to all this, you have no interest for spiritual life. Right, when one of the devotees invites you for a class, you say, I have no time to do my business. Only I get up in the morning at 6 and till 10 I'm doing my business, you tell them, right? So you're attached materially. Okay, so there's no chance of spiritual life for them. Okay, they neglect spiritual life. Bhaya means what? We saw, right? How they want to merge into the impersonal Brahman and become one with God. So fear of personal spiritual identity. For them, merging into impersonal is highest. Okay, because they are too absorbed into materially bodily concept of retaining personality after liberation from matter frightens them. Okay, so we saw the example like how bubbles they want to become like bubbles in the ocean, and Krodha also we saw, right. They become angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness, and they take that's why they take to intoxication. But they want happiness, these people. So generally people who take drugs, they think that they're floating in air, they feel these hallucinations and everything, right? So that's why they take to because they are frustrated, that's why they take to drugs, and they think that is spirituality. When that hallucination they see, that is they think that is spirituality. Okay. Section 2, 4.11 to 15. Applying transcendental knowledge. By hearing about Krishna, many persons in the past became purified and attained love for Krishna. They attained love for Krishna because this was their desire and Krishna fulfilled it. What if someone takes shelter of Krishna with something other than a desire to achieve transcendental love for him? Okay, and now they're saying what, see, generally most many people come to Krishna, I mean, like for to get purified and attain Krishna, get Krishna prema. But what if someone comes to Krishna with some other desire other than transcendental love for him? So that is what, how does Krishna reciprocate with such people is being told here. So 4.11. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanuvartante manushyaha partha sarvashaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Buddha. Krishna is telling, however they surrender to me, that is how I reciprocate with them. In whichever order they reciprocate, that is how, I mean, they surrender, that is how I reciprocate. So, how? So everyone is searching for Krishna in the different aspects of his manifestation. He is partially realized in his impersonal Brahma Jyoti and as the omnipresent Super Soul. Right? Some people, they want to realize Krishna as the impersonal Brahman. So Krishna says, okay, you want to serve me as impersonal, not serve exactly, as you want to merge into my impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Okay, you're welcome. If you want to lose your individuality, fine. If that's what you decide, you can become one with me. And then some want to serve as meditate on Krishna as Paramatma in the heart. Okay, so Krishna says, okay, fine, that is also okay. If you want me to want to serve me like that, that is also okay. And how is that is partial realization? How is Krishna realized? See, is fully realized only by his pure devotee as Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So each is satisfied according to one's desire to have him. In the transcendental world also, Krishna reciprocates just as the devotee wants him. See, one wants to serve Krishna in the spiritual world as master, another wants to serve as friend, another wants to serve as lover. So one wants to be a cow, one wants to be a tree, one wants to be a peacock, so one wants to be a gopi. So like that, it's up to him, up to them, however they want to serve. So Krishna reciprocates accordingly. Krishna rewards all devotees equally according to the different intensities of love for him. In the material world too, personal service to the Lord is seen given transcendental bliss. For the impersonals too, Krishna helps by absorbing them into his effulgence. So for the impersonals also, Krishna, he helps them merge into his impersonal Brahma Jyoti and become one with God. Okay, so here we can see, right, different levels of realizing God, Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman. And who realizes Krishna fully is only pure devotees. Okay, everyone is looking for Krishna. See, everyone is looking for Krishna in his different aspects of his manifestation. Okay, so Krishna is the object of everyone's realization. Krishna reciprocates based on desires. Like, see, if he is a fruitative worker, he will do yagnas. to get his desire. See, by performing yagna, he will go to heavenly planets. Now, impersonalists, what is their desire? They want to become one with the Brahma Jyoti. Okay, Krishna grants. And yogis, they want mystic powers, right? Anima, Lagima, different yoga siddhis they want. And devotees, they want to connect with Krishna through the five primary rasas: Shanta rasa, Dasya rasa, Sakhya rasa, Vatsalya rasa, Madhurya rasa is there, right? So they want to connect with Krishna like that. Okay. So what are they saying? Devotees, Akama sarva kamo va means what? If you have no desire, or sarva kama, if you have any desire, or whatever be your desire, no desire, desire, or not, whatever be it, you try to worship Krishna, you come to Krishna. You have no desire, you have desire, whatever. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, you don't go to demigods, you come to Krishna, whatever desires you have. Okay, and everyone depends on Krishna's mercy for success. All kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success on the same path. See, all these spiritual processes that you do, like karma yoga, like jnana yoga, all gradually they lead you to the bhakti yoga, but they are different degrees of success. Okay, so but it takes a long time. It takes many janmas, and then finally you have to come to bhakti yoga. Okay, so that is also a gradual process. Whatever. So all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees. So different degrees of success on the same path, but finally they lead to the same path. That is bhakti yoga. Okay, so without coming to the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness, all attempts are imperfect. So all of us has to come to Krishna consciousness means what? Bhakti yoga. Until that time, all your attempts are imperfect. Okay. So these are the different. Shantarasa means what? In neutral, like the cows, trees, flute, all those. Dasarasa means servants. Okay, Chitraka, Patraka, and Raktaka, they are the direct servants of Krishna. Sakya Rasa means in friendship. We know that Arjuna is a friend, and Sudama, and many of his friends are cowherd friends of Krishna: Sudama, Arjuna, Subabu, Kusuma Mahabala, Subala, Vasudeva, Mahabahu, Lavanga, Stoka Krishna, Dama. Vatsalya Rasa means in parenthood. Right? Example, Yashoda Maya, Nanda Maharaj, Rohini, Devaki, Vasudeva, Sandipani Muni, etc. And Madhurya Rasa is the relationship with Krishna as the lover and the beloved. Example, the relationship with Krishna of Radharani, okay, and the wives in Dwaraka, gopis in Madhurya Rasa. The conjugal love is divided into two: Vipralamba or conjugal love in separation, and Sambhoga, that is in union, direct contact. And we can see the 9 stages of Bhakti Yoga. Starts with Shraddha. Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana, Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema is the highest. So that is what we are looking for when we are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. We want that Prema of Krishna. Okay, so that we are looking for love of Krishna. We are not looking for liberation. We are not interested in liberation. We don't mind staying in this. We don't mind staying in this material world as long as we get love for Krishna. If we get that, wherever we are staying, that it is immaterial for the devotee. So these are the 9 processes of devotional service. That is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So these are the things. So sharing, chanting, remembering, serving the Lord's lotus feet, deity worship, praying, executing orders, like dasyam, serving as a friend, complete surrender. So that these are the different processes of devotional service. So impersonalists do not agree to accept the eternal blissful personality of Godhead. They cannot relish the bliss of transcendental personal service to the Lord as they have extinguished their individuality. So these people, they don't want individuality, right? So They can't serve the Lord because they want to become one with the impersonal Brahman. So those not firmly situated, even in the impersonal existence, they return to the material field to exhibit their dormant desire for activities. See, these people, once they go and merge into the impersonal Brahman, so how long can you just stay in light? There is no happiness, nothing. The only facility is you're eternal now. As when you merge into the impersonal Brahman, there is only light. So how long can you stay in light? You get bored, right? Automatically. So these people, that's why again they return to the material field. They are born again in the material world, and then again they start doing their activities, because of which they can't stay for a long time over there. So that's why they are again born in the material world, and they continue their material activities again. See, because it's the nature of the soul to do some activity. The soul cannot be inactive. See, when you are merged into that impersonal Brahman, there is no activity, right? It's just light and it's just you. So there's no activity. But the nature of the soul is to be active. And these people, we saw in the previous chapters, in second chapter, we saw how they suppress their thoughts, the senses. Like they say, no, 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 don't look at that. No, 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 don't hear this. So they suppressed all the activities of their senses. Now all those come out. So, and when they are born, because they just suppress them without any positive engagement, those desires come out again. So they start executing those desires again when they are born. Okay, so they are not admitted into the spiritual planets, right? So they don't go into the spiritual planets, but they are given a chance to act on the material planets. That's why they come and take birth on the material planets. So for fruitive workers, what does Lord give them? We saw, right? As Yagneshwara, he gives them the award as going to heavenly planets or whatever. Yogis, they want mystic powers, and Krishna gives them the powers. So all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success. That also we saw on the same path. A different yoga like karma yoga, gnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and finally bhakti yoga. But all culminate finally in bhakti, right? All attempts become perfectly one when one is in Krishna consciousness. So if you practice Krishna consciousness, that is the perfect path. Okay. So 12. काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मनुष्ये लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजाम्. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship their demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. See, that's why, see, men in this world, they're more bent on material activities. They want results very fast. That's why they worship the demigods. These demigods, they get pleased very quickly and they give them the results. Okay. So demigods are different forms of God, but they are God's different parts and parcels delegated with different grades of powers. So the Krishna actually gives the demigods different powers so that they can manage the material world. Okay. So Vedas say Nityo Nityanam. The Vedas say God is one. Ishwaraha Parama Krishna. These demigods are all living entities, Nityanam, but cannot be equal to the Supreme Lord, Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna. So that we have to understand. See, they are these Lord Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna, they are not demigods. But Lord Shiva, Ganesha, they are all demigods. They come under demigods. Okay. So one who thinks that God and demigods are same is called an atheist or a Pashandi. Even the greatest demigod Brahma and Shiva worship the Lord. Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, do not belong to this world. They belong to the Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka, right? Spiritual planet they belong to, not to the material plane. They are transcendental to material creation. The results obtained through demigods, they are temporary and meant for less intelligent persons. Demigods are worshipped for temporary material opulences of the material world. Demigods, as well as the worshippers, will vanish with the annihilation of the material world. Right? So demigods also like Indra, Chandra, when the pralaya comes, all their planets along with them will be vanquished. They'll be destroyed, annihilated. Okay, so the demigods, whatever the boons they give are temporary, and they are themselves temporary, and the planets are also temporary. Okay, so this is the difference between demigods and Krishna. So they always, the demigods, they always worship Krishna as obedient servants, but Krishna is the one supreme whole. He is the supremely worshipable. He is the creator. So the demigods are created by the supreme, and they exist within material nature, delegated with various grades of power to manage the affairs of the universe. So each has one separate power. Like Agni, he gives fire. Like Vayu, air. Like Varuna, rain, water. Like that, Indra, rain. Like that, each is delegated with one particular power by Krishna. So all are subordinate to the will of the Supreme. And Krishna is like supremely independent. These people, they have demigods, have material bodies, hence subjected to birth, old age, disease, and death. So Krishna is completely spiritual, so no birth, death, old age, disease. Completely, he is beyond the influence of the three modes. Though he created the three modes, he is above them. He is in pure goodness. Comes under the influence of the three modes of modes to different extents. So these demigods come under the influence of the three modes, but Krishna is above the three modes, right? He is in pure goodness. He is eternally the same Supreme Lord. 4.13, after 4.12, 4.13, let's see, and then we'll come back to 14. 4.13, see, Lord created the four social divisions with the intelligent class of men. Brahmanas situated in the mode of goodness, Kshatriyas, there's just two more shlokas. Please be patient and we'll try to complete, and then tomorrow we'll start from 16. Okay, thank you so much. Brahmanas situated in the mode of goodness, Kshatriyas, the administrative class, situated in the mode of passion, Vaishyas, the mercantile men situated in the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, and Shudras, or laborer class, are situated in the mode of ignorance. Lord Krishna does not belong to any of these divisions, as he is not a conditioned soul. So Krishna does not come under Kshatriya, Brahmana, or all these, because he is not on the material platform. He is on the transcendental platform. Lord Krishna does not belong to any of these divisions because as he is not a conditioned soul. Were created for the systematic development of Krishna consciousness to elevate men from the animal status. The tendency of a particular man towards work is determined by the modes of material nature which he has acquired. A person in Krishna consciousness, however, is above even the Brahmanas, because the Brahmanas, they worship God on a impersonal Brahman level, but the devotees, they worship Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. That's why the Vaishnava is more than a Brahmana on a higher level. So Chaturvaryam Maya Srishtam, he's saying the four varnas are created by me according to guna and karma, not by birth. Guna and karma. Okay, so Lord does not belong to any of these classes, Varnashrama Dharma, because he's not on the material platform, he's on the spiritual platform. So what are they? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So Vaishnava is higher than a Brahmana. So Brahmana by quality is supposed to know Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, but most of them approach only the impersonal Brahman. See, that's why Brahmana, he can go only up to the level of impersonal Brahman. But a Vaishnava, he worships Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead. That is the highest realization of Godhead, right? That's why a Vaishnava is higher than a Brahmana. So KC includes knowledge of all different plenary expansions like Lord Rama and Nrsimha. Okay? Lord Krishna and one in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all divisions of society. Okay, so what is the purpose of the system, Varnashram system? To elevate from animal status to human status, to bring them to the human status. Like animal state means what? People were so materialistic that they thought they are this body, and they were so much into eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That is what the animals do, right? So to bring them from the animal status to the human status, we have Krishna introduced this Varnashrama Dharma, doing prescribed duties for the satisfaction of Krishna. So what happens when you do prescribed duties? You get purified, and then systematically you get closer to Krishna consciousness. So once you start getting purified slowly, you systematically develop Krishna consciousness, right? So Varnashrama Dharma created by Krishna, who is above the modes, is as a mixture of guna, karma from three modes of material work associated with why, to avoid degradation, to protect, to support, for cooperation. So why does he introduce the Varnashrama Dharma? So that in the Varnashrama Dharma, per guna and karma, if they do their specific duties, a Brahmana, if he does his prescribed duties per the Vedas, what happens? Slowly purification takes place. And when purification happens, you get closer to practicing Krishna consciousness. That's why these are given. Okay. And what are the ashramas for Brahmanas? So Brahmana can undergo brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa, and Kshatriya can undergo brahmachari, grihastha, and vanaprastha. So Kshatriyas can't take sannyas. Okay. And Sudras can become only a grihastha. And Vaishyas, they can become brahmachari and grihastha. That's all. Okay. 14. न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ति न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां यो विजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. So here what is Krishna saying? See, you should not do any activity to please yourself for your sense gratification. Do it, do your duty to your 100% and leave the result to me. Do the activity to please Krishna. So if you do any activity to please Krishna, it becomes a karma. But if you do it for your sense gratification, there'll be good or bad karma, because of which you have to suffer or enjoy. You have to come back to this material world, and you'll be entangled in the cycle of birth and death. So Krishna, what is he saying? Although Lord is the creator of this material world, he is not affected by the activities of the material world. He remains aloof from the creation. The living entities are entangled in the fruitive results of material activities, see, because they want to enjoy material nature. The various creations of the Lord include the demigods, human beings, lower animals, all subject to the reactions of their past good or bad activities. The Lord only gives them proper facilities for such activities and the regulations of the modes of nature, but He is never responsible for their past and present activities. The Lord is never partial to any living entity. A Krishna conscious person is never subjected to the laws of karma. See, if you see, if you go to an astrologer, if you take a devotee, his hand before Krishna consciousness is one, and after Krishna consciousness, we go to the same astrologer. He says, "What is this? There's a drastic change in your this thing hand." So the devotees, that's why they don't depend on astrology. They depend on Krishna, because even Krishna can change anything, right? So a Krishna conscious person is never subjected to the laws of karma, because they are governed by Krishna. So devotee is always under in the safe protection of Krishna. The created beings are of many varieties, such as demigods. Oh, the same thing is repeated again. Yeah, the same thing here. Okay. So 15, it's a large shloka. Evam gnatva kritam karma purver api mumukshubhihi kuru karma eva tasmatvam purvaihi purvataram kritam. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. Okay, here Krishna is telling that all have acted. See, all the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding. In the sense, they didn't do anything for their sense gratification. They did all their activities to please Krishna. Okay, so if you see Prabhupada and his Guru Maharaj and everybody, what did they do? They did all their activities to please Krishna. They didn't do anything for their sense gratification. So that's what Krishna is telling. So you follow in that parampara, you follow all the liberated souls, how they all have acted not for their sense gratification, but just to please me. So you do all your duties in such a way that you don't worry about the results. You leave the results to me. Just do your duty to the 100%. Okay. So you should just perform your duty following in their footsteps. Okay. So we should do all our activities just to please Krishna. So this 16 we'll try to take it tomorrow.